Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We get a lot of questions about sleep, and I think today we're going to hit something that a lot of people struggle with, and
Yeah.
it's the link between daily stress and sleep problems.
Hmm.
Those nights when you just can't seem to turn your brain off.
Absolutely.
And to help us unpack all this, we're diving into some research,
Yeah.
and it's called The Analysis on the Relationship Between Daily Stress and Troubled Sleep. And I got to say, getting into this research, I was really surprised to learn how even seemingly small everyday stresses can really affect our sleep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and even more than that, it's how lack of sleep actually amplifies stress levels, creating a really vicious cycle.
It's like a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
So before we dive into all the fascinating details and try to break this cycle,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to start by defining what we're talking about when we say daily stress.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like?
Yeah. So, when we think about daily stress, it's those everyday pressures and annoyances, the little things that we all face, right? And we can think about it in two categories.
Okay.
So there's anticipated stress and unanticipated stress.
Okay.
So anticipated stress, that's kind of like, you've got a looming deadline at work,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe you have a presentation you got to give, so you're kind of anticipating that that's coming up.
Hmm.
Whereas unanticipated stress, that's like the curveballs life throws at you. You get into a surprise argument, or
Oh, yeah.
you get stuck in traffic. Those kind of.
I could definitely relate to that,
Yeah.
especially the traffic one, yeah. So are you saying that even these like small, everyday stresses,
Mhm.
things that we kind of just brush off, they can actually impact our sleep?
They absolutely can. Yeah. And, we kind of brush them off as no big deal, but it's like, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Ooh, that's a good
It's for
analogy.
your peace of mind, right?
Uh,
So it's like all those little things, they do add up.
that makes sense. Okay, so then how does that actually work? What is the science behind stress actually affecting our sleep?
Yeah, so let's think about what happens when you feel stressed, right? You feel that, your heart starts racing, you might get tense, maybe you even get a headache, right? That's your body's fight or flight response kicking in. And so when that happens, your body is flooded with hormones like cortisol.
Cortisol, the stress hormone.
Exactly.
Okay, so I've heard that term thrown around a lot, but what does cortisol actually have to do with sleep?
So cortisol is really designed to help us deal with immediate danger.
Right.
It's that, you need to run away from the tiger kind of response, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, when we're chronically stressed, cortisol is kind of always on, It keeps our system revved up, and it makes it really hard to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Gotcha. So it's like, I guess we can't shift into sleep mode because our brains are still thinking about, all that stuff. The cortisol's keeping them going, right?
Exactly. And so this is where it gets really interesting. Okay.
Because the study that we're looking at actually found something fascinating about this whole process.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me everything.
They use data from wearables and questionnaires to get like a complete picture of people's sleep patterns and stress levels. And what they found
Okay.
was that there was a clear link
Okay.
between the two. The more stressed people were, the shorter and worse their sleep was.
Oh, wow. So it's not only are you getting less sleep, but the quality of sleep is worse.
Exactly.
Oh, man, it's like a double whammy.
It is a double whammy.
Yeah, that can't be good for us in the long run, right?
It's definitely not ideal. Yeah, we're talking about, a weakened immune system,
Yeah.
higher risk of heart disease, diabetes, even certain types of cancer.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty serious.
Okay. That's a little sobering. So it sounds like this is not just about getting more sleep, it's about breaking that cycle
Yeah.
of stress and bad sleep.
Absolutely.
But how do we actually do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
But luckily, there's a lot we can do.
And I kind of think of it like we've got these two leaky faucets, right?
Right.
We've got the stress faucet and we've got the sleep faucet.
Gotcha.
And we need to kind of fix both of them.
Okay, so let's start with the stress faucet.
Okay.
How do we tackle that?
Well, the first thing is, identify your stressors.
Okay.
What are those things that are consistently kind of pushing your buttons?
Yeah.
Is it your long commute? Is it work deadlines? Is it family drama? Whatever it is, you got to kind of pinpoint those things that are making
Yeah.
you feel overwhelmed.
I feel like sometimes even just admitting that those things are stressors is kind of like a relief.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes just acknowledging it can be huge.
Yeah.
But then, we can't always eliminate those stressors,
Right.
but we can learn to manage them better.
Okay.
So, for example, if your commute is a major source of stress for you, could you try carpooling, listening to a podcast, exploring alternate routes?
Ooh, yeah. I find listening to calming music on my commute really helps.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
I'm tricking my brain into thinking I'm somewhere else.
Exactly. And, if work deadlines are constantly stressing you out, maybe break those big tasks down into smaller steps, right?
Yeah.
It's all about creating a sense of control and progress.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're identifying those stressors. We're figuring out ways to minimize them.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Are there other things we can be doing to manage that stress in our day-to-day lives?
Absolutely. Think about adding relaxation techniques to your routine. Things like yoga, deep breathing exercises, even just spending time in nature.
Hmm.
All those things can help kind of shift your body out of that fight or flight mode
Yeah.
and into a more relaxed state.
I love that. It's like you're giving your nervous system a break.
Exactly.
Speaking of breaks, do you think taking breaks throughout the day can help?
Oh, 100%. Even short breaks can do wonders.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the reset button on your stress levels.
Awesome. Okay. So we talked a lot about managing stress, but what about the other side of the coin? How can we improve our sleep quality?
Well, this is where a consistent sleep routine comes in.
Okay.
Our bodies really thrive on regularity.
Okay.
So aim to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends.
Ooh, the weekend sleep in.
I know, it's tough.
I'm guilty of that.
But it really does make a difference.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see that. What about our environment? Does that play a role in how well we sleep?
Big time. Your bedroom should be your sleep sanctuary.
Okay.
So think dark, quiet, and cool.
Okay.
Invest in some blackout curtains, a white noise machine, or even just a fan to block out distracting sounds.
Hmm.
And temperature is key too. Aim for around 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Dark, quiet, and cool. Got it.
Exactly.
Anything else about our sleep sanctuary we should be thinking about?
Well, your bed itself,
Yep.
is your mattress comfortable and supportive? Are your pillows the right height? These things seem small, but they can really make a big difference in how well you sleep.
Yeah, it's all about creating that haven, that perfect sleep haven, right?
Exactly.
What about pre-sleep rituals? Any tips for winding down before bed?
This is key. We need to signal to our brains that it's time to transition into sleep mode,
Okay.
and that means ditching the screens an hour or two before bed.
Ah, okay.
Because the blue light that's emitted from those phones and computers,
Yeah.
that actually messes with your melatonin production,
Okay.
which is the hormone that regulates your sleep cycle.
That explains why I can't fall asleep if I've been scrolling on my phone before bed.
Exactly.
Okay, so what should we be doing instead?
Think about things like, reading a book, taking a warm bath, listening to relaxing music, those kind of calming activities.
Okay, so we're setting the mood.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh,
What would you say to someone who's dealing with more serious sleep issues like insomnia?
well, if you're consistently struggling to sleep, it's really important to talk to your doctor.
Okay.
There could be underlying medical conditions that need to be addressed.
Okay.
So don't suffer in silence.
Right. There's no shame in asking for help.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about managing stress. We've talked about improving sleep. This is a lot to keep in mind.
It is. It's a journey, but it's about finding what works best for you and making small changes over time.
Yeah.
As you start to incorporate these strategies, you'll likely see a ripple effect, better mood, more energy, better ability to handle stress. It's all connected.
I love that it's like this positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
Speaking of connections, I have another question for you. Can improving our sleep actually make us more resilient to stress?
That's a great question and one
Okay.
we'll dive into right after this.
So we're back. And before the break, we were talking about something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Can improving our sleep actually make us more resilient to stress?
It's a great question. And, there's actually a growing body of research.
That suggests that getting enough sleep really does boost your stress resilience.
So it's not just about, reducing stress to sleep better.
Yeah,
It's also about sleeping better to handle stress better.
exactly.
That's amazing. It's like sleep is a superpower for our brains.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, studies have shown that people who consistently sleep well,
Yeah.
they actually have lower levels of cortisol, even in stressful situations.
Interesting.
So it's like you're giving your brain, think of it like a car engine.
Okay.
Stress is kind of revving up that engine,
Yeah.
but sleep is what helps it cool down
Gotcha.
and run smoothly.
That makes total sense. If your brain is already on high alert from lack of sleep, it's just going to be harder to stay calm in those tough situations.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you're well rested, the parts of your brain that control your emotions, they're working at their best, right? So
Mhm.
instead of spiraling into that panic mode,
Yeah.
You can approach challenges with a clear head.
You can think rationally, you can make better decisions.
So we're giving our brains the tools they need
Exactly.
to handle that stress. Yeah, okay.
Mm.
What about those of us who, we really struggle to turn our brains off at night?
Yeah.
I know I'm guilty of this, just lying in bed, thoughts racing.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really common problem.
Yeah.
And often it's really tied to stress.
Okay.
One technique that I find can be really helpful is mindfulness meditation before bed.
Okay.
And it's really about focusing on the present moment without judgment,
Yeah.
Instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future,
Mhm.
you're kind of tuning into your breath, your body, the sounds around you.
You're just hitting pause
Exactly.
on all those thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I've tried meditation before, but I always feel like I'm doing it wrong.
Don't worry, there's no right or wrong way to do it,
Okay,
It's a skill, it takes practice.
yeah.
The key is to be kind to yourself and just keep bringing your attention back to the present moment.
Right.
And over time, you become more aware of your thoughts and emotions, and it can help you to detach from those stressful, sleep-stealing thought patterns.
So we're calming our minds, we're regulating our emotions,
Mm-hmm.
we're boosting our stress resilience all through sleep.
It really is amazing.
It's incredible.
The more we learn about this connection,
Yeah,
the better choices we can make
Right.
for our well-being. It's about creating that positive upward spiral of better sleep, better stress management, which leads to even better sleep.
it's like we're breaking free of that bad cycle and stepping into a good one.
I love that. Yeah,
This has been so eye-opening. I'm definitely going to be prioritizing my sleep even more,
that's great to hear.
knowing, all these benefits we talked about.
Yeah, and remember, it's not about perfection.
Mhm.
It's about progress.
Mhm.
It's about self-compassion and finding what works for you.
It's about giving ourselves permission to rest
Yeah.
and recharge. Yeah. Well, there you have it, everyone. Our deep dive into the world of stress and sleep.
Yeah.
We learned so much about how they're connected, the science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, those strategies for taking control
Absolutely.
of our well-being.
Yeah.
Remember, the journey continues. Pay attention to your stress. Make sleep a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.